So let's talk about the three things that you want to make sure are in an ERP system or can be put into an ERP system easily if you want to consider one for your dealership. So the first thing is, if I have some costs that I've incurred on a service ticket or work order, whatever you happen to call it, how do I add those costs to either the cost of used items that I've taken in on trade, or I add them as maybe perhaps as options on new units. So I bring in a new car, I add mud flaps, I add undercoating, whatever I want to add. But if I have a car that started out as with a 10,000, no, well, it's too low nowadays. If I have a car that started out at a $40,000 cost or an $80,000 cost, and I add $2,000, $5,000, $10,000 worth of options to it, how do I change the cost of that unit? So it has lots of impact on obviously the profit, but also on how you pay commissions and everything else. How do I take the costs on that work order or service ticket and add it to the cost of a serialized inventory item that's held in stock? And whether it's new or used, I want to take either the service costs or option costs, and they may be third-party costs, like maybe you send it out to do the undercoating. But you want to take those costs and add it on to your inventory item. So that's number one. I want to increase the cost of my inventory item, either new or used. The second one is, which is similar, is how do I take those costs and add them to the cost of a capital asset or a fixed asset that I want to depreciate. So I've got a delivery truck, I pull it in the shop, I do $4,000 for the service work on it. That I might write off to maintenance. But what if I do a motor job on it? What if I do a $30,000 motor job, or I put a new box on it, or a new winch to increase the capability of that unit? I want to depreciate that rather than charge it to maintenance. And the item isn't sitting in inventory, so I can't push the cost over there. I don't want to record it as maintenance because I don't want that cost to all hit 1 year. I want to be able to depreciate it. And so second is, how do I take those costs and add it to the cost of a fixed asset so I can depreciate it over however many years. And then the third item is, now we're talking about trade-ins, and everybody loves trade-ins. So the old story, you walk in with your car. This is an example, of course, I've come across personally more often as I've gone through cars over the years. But what you offer the customer is often not what you actually want to record it as in your inventory system, because this has impacts again on profitability, value of your inventory, which may have an effect on, depending on your relationship with your bank, it affects commissions, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So as an example, if you offer a customer $40,000 for trade on a piece of equipment, $10,000 trade on a $40,000 piece of equipment, you can either record the sale as $40,000 and in inventory 10, but now your inventory is overvalued, right? Or you can choose to say, well, I'm going to write $5,000 of that off to some kind of either decreased sales, or I'm going to write it off to an adjustment against sales. And then it'll net then on my sales. My net sales when I'm done will be 35,000, but I might still record the 40 gross. This is up to you and your accountant, right? How exactly you want to do that. But you need the flexibility to be able to adjust the cost of a trade-in for what it's actually going to be worth in your system. Because now you take that $5,000 net value and you add $3,000 worth of refurbishment, and it's sitting in inventory at $8,000, and if it gets sold for 12, you've got a gross margin of 4, and your commission is only being paid on the $4,000 if you're paying on margin. Okay, and if you're paying on gross revenue, you sold for $12,000, then of course, you're not trying to puff that up for an inflationary value on your trade-in. So those are the three items, and you want to make sure that your ERP system has those. You might ask, well, why wouldn't I just use a dealership software from somebody else that's established that everybody knows? And there's two reasons for that. One is that, two primary reasons. One is that the major ERP vendors like Microsoft pour so much money into R&D that in Microsoft's case, the amount of money they spend every year in research and development on just Business Central, that's one product, every year the R&D that they spend on that product is more than many software vendors have in annual revenue. So what you're just seeing is rapid change in both the technology and and the feature set of the software. So as an example, Microsoft has a Power suite of families: Power BI, Power Automate, Power Apps. Just these three things that they've developed that tie into Business Central that allow you to do outstanding business intelligence, to do automated workflows, to do mobile and web apps that you can easily extend your system to the field, or any kind of a unique process that you want to send to a mobile user. So Microsoft is just throwing all this money at this, and it's leaving many of the software vendors that are out there in the dust, essentially. Like they'll say they have these features, like they'll say they have artificial intelligence, but I can guarantee you that in a couple of years from now, and this video is being shot in 2025, then in a couple of years from now, in 2027, Microsoft's artificial intelligence integration into business intelligence will far exceed that of virtually any other vendor on the market. And so that's something to consider. Your system will never go obsolete because of the financial and the technology backing. Microsoft is a cloud-based solution, and so you no longer have to have expensive hardware sitting back in your shop somewhere, subject to having all the latest patches and everything to make sure your system isn't compromised. They actually operate from data centers in your region of the world, so it gives you outstanding performance, automatic failovers. If something goes wrong, it automatically flips over to a live database. So it's just a model that as a local business you cannot hope to match in either the guarantee of data accessibility or the data security. And then the second feature, the second reason why you'd want to do something like go for an ERP system is that businesses today are growing and they become more complex. So as an example, we've had several equipment rental businesses that have chosen to get into the manufacturing business. Well, dealership software does not offer manufacturing capability. They don't offer advanced warehousing. There's a limit to what they do with fixed assets. There's a limit to what they do with inventory. They may not do project costing at all. Well, Microsoft's ERP system, Business Central, offers all of that to end users. So it's worth taking a look at ERP, as an option. And there'll be some information on the end of this on Business Central, which is what our company supports. But it's, you can take your time, look around, consider different options, and see what you think.